Well, if you actually look across Canada, it's becoming very interesting. There's fewer people working in construction, manufacturing, and other services industry. On the other hand, there's actually increased employment in things like accommodation and food services, as well as information, culture, and recreation. I actually think that information, culture, and recreation is something that's making British Columbia great and will ultimately make most of Canada great again. And if we actually look here, we can see that Statistics Canada is saying that British Columbia is the only province that's actually seeing employment growth. And a lot of that is within like the younger age range of 18, 90 through to 24, 25 years old. But really, where are those opportunities of work, and how can we prepare for them? If you sit down and you think, oh, I know what I want to do. Well, you might know what you want to do for the next 5 years, but I don't think you really can really predict what you're going to be in 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years. I certainly, when I was at university, couldn't predict that I was likely to be a futurist. However, I laid the groundwork by doing quite an edgy course and had a curious mind. So you never know where that work that you do today will take you tomorrow. You know, there's been lots said about, 65% of today's students will be employed in jobs that don't exist yet. I actually think it's going to be a lot larger than that. And I think that's because we're going to define our own future. With millennials being the biggest population in the Canadian workforce at 35% plus people, I think that we can look to say, okay, I'm going to create my own future. It's going to actually happen by me getting together with my friends and defining what I want the future world to look like and how we want the world to operate as well. You're likely going to have multiple occupations at any one point in time. The future is going to be about stamina, keeping going, flexibility, always learning and being adaptable, understanding that life will change. And then you'll just really understand that being in the moment of flow, that state where you're just really optimum and you're performing and you're using your intellect and maybe your physicality is going to become very, very useful to you. So what does that mean for you as students? And some of you are still in school, and some of you are just graduated, some of you are going to go to university, and some of you are going to choose to do whatever you want. And some of that might be to be families, and that's just as relevant as well and incredibly important. So in school and college, whether you're still there or you've just graduated, it will give you general skills. So listen to the teachers, listen to what there is. Also question everything that you get taught. Nothing that teachers and the system will tell you will prepare you for what's going to happen in the real world. Only the experience that you're going to gain over time and exposure to new situations will. Listen to your friends, listen to your family, strive to learn the skills that you want to use as well. Think about science and technology, engineering and math, but don't forget to put the A in there. The A is around art and creativity. So STEAM, not STEM. So think about like the idea that dance and sculpture, music, drawing and painting, creativity, whether that's digital art or something that you do online or whether that's something you do offline, is an incredibly important part of what we do. It's a renaissance that we're actually operating in right now. Everyone around you is going to be like shouting at you that you need to learn to code. If you don't want to learn to code, you don't have to do that. You can just choose to do something that's more important to you. Just realize that the world is going to be populated with technology, and that having some basis of understanding about what to do with coding is going to really help you out. Okay, so, and the work, what should you really do with that? Well, I think you have to have an entrepreneurial mindset. I think you need to do what you love. That goes beyond technology and apps. I think that you need to understand that it's okay to get a job in a big company, whether it's technology or business or whatever. And that's a really relevant way of building experience. Some of the earliest jobs I had were in startups, but when I worked in larger companies, my growth was much larger. I had a larger base of people to learn from and understand how the world was working. And that was a really important part of what I'm doing. So that relevance of large companies and small companies and everything in between, the businesses on the high street, our friends and family, is an important perspective. There's going to be pressure and there's going to be advice from everyone around you. Listen to your heart, listen to what you want to do as well. And really that comes back to my story and what I actually experienced when I grew up, because I wasn't a standard school kid. I was smart, I knew what I kind of was interested in, but I was stuck in a large classroom and I was being taught subjects I didn't really care for. And that meant that at the age of 15, I left school with very little in terms of qualifications. I just didn't believe in the system, but I knew that I had an ability. Everyone around me was becoming an engineering apprentice. They looked down at me because I fought against school and I had a job delivering milk on doorsteps. I woke up and I skateboarded every day. I played in bands. I wrote songs at night. I did art. And I also did a lot of writing. And people were just like, this doesn't make sense. Get on with it. Like, get a job. And then I realized that through the help and support of my parents, that college would help me do some things that are much more important in my life than just like lugging around crates of milk. Because really, that's not going to add much more to the world except for feeding a few people in a small village in the southwest of England. So I went on to do computing. I excelled at that. It was something that I was always good at since the age of 10 years old. Then I went on to university and did a course in applied psychology and computing. It was very edgy. I specialized in artificial intelligence, linguistics, and social network theory. This was in 1993, so way before, you know, the sexy new world where we talk about all these things. And then some 25 years later, since I sort of went from college and university, I've had a wild and varied career. I've never stopped wondering what was around the corner and how to be curious. I own my own place that I live in, and I've owned 2 places before. I've worked all over the world. I've moved countries. I'm now Canadian as well as being English. I've had some high-profile jobs, VPs and directorships and all these things I strive to be. I do what I want every day by making money, traveling and speaking and pushing people to be and do more. So I've become kind of a coach and an educator. We call this a futurist within the perspective of what I'm doing. But like, what will you do? You know, you're going to be makers and builders. You're going to be teachers. You're going to think about building technologies, creating new cultures, teaching business around the world how to be better. You're going to be some of the most important people for every single business person, for every single school, and for every single community out there. And as you grow up, your passion and your energy is going to drive us all forward. So this is supposed to be a rebel-rousing talk. It's early on a Monday morning. I've drunk plenty of coffee, so we're all good. But like, really, there's 5 things to bear in mind, I think, at the end of what I'm talking about here. And I think that these are 5 things that you should consider today, and you should write them down and consider them down for the future as well. The number 1 thing is to follow your heart and remember there is no failure. Many times in your life, you're going to feel down, or you will lose a job, or you won't get that job through an interview, or someone just won't return the call, and you have to pick yourself up and get on with it. Nelson Mandela says it really well, that there's no failure, right? There's just success, and we celebrate that. And then there's just lessons. There's no failure at all. We just learn every time that we try and have these experiences. I've probably applied to hundreds of jobs. I've worked in many different places. I've built great friendships through every position I've been in. And some people just don't like me, and that's okay. Number 2, travel. I can't explain how important it is to, you know, get some education, but once you do, get out on the road, travel the world. You won't find your inspiration in your hometown. You won't find your inspiration just in BC or in Canada alone. You'll find some, but really where you'll find the inspiration is by traveling the world, thinking about working with people in different countries and continents. And you can do that when you're younger because of, you know, the visas are available. Take that experience, opportunity, go international, and then bring it home to Canada. And then we can make Canada really, really strong and think about new business in new different ways. And the experiences that I bring from all over the world into British Columbia, Vancouver, and across Canada make me very valuable as a commodity to business and to communities. Okay, number 3, realize that it does take time. Every single online publication talks about startup success, millionaires, billionaires, how everything can change. You have to realize that every overnight success generally takes about 7 or 8 years. You look at Uber, you look at Airbnb, they were going for 6, 7, 8 years before they really hit the road. There's a lot of business that really doesn't make it beyond 3 years. When you think at the average age of a company within the S&P 500, the stocks, is around 15 years old, we have to realize that there's a very short period of time to make an impact in the world. But at the beginning, if we're in like 1 year and it's getting tough, you have to keep pushing 2 years, 3 years and beyond that. And if it really, really counts, you're going to be working on some of your ideas from today for the next 20 years as well. And in 20 years' time, it might actually hit home. Okay, number 4, and I think this is one of the most important lessons as well. Keep your friends, family, and community close. It's going to be really hard. There's going to be some very strange times. You're going to need the love and support of those people. You're going to feel incredibly lonely. But realize that once you do have that community and you do speak to people within not only your local community, but the online communities where you can really feed into, you're going to actually have that support network, and you're going to find strength from that. And that means that you're going to be able to keep going, and that stamina is going to be there. And I think finally, and a final thought here, is that you have to be brave. You have to trust serendipity, because you know what? Sometimes you're just going to get the lucky break. I've spent the last 2 years saying yes to everything. It's one of the reasons I'm speaking to you this morning. Jean-Marc called me up. It's like, Nick, would you like to speak? It's like, yes. Can we make it out? We talk back and forth. It's like, yeah, let's do it. Right? Trust serendipity. Get that job. Try it out. If it doesn't work, don't be afraid to move on. Reinvent yourself. Reinvent yourself every 3 to 5 years, because the world's going to be moving quicker. Technology is going to come in. I've been everything from like a coder to a technical architect through to a salesman. And now I've gone through advertising since I've lived in Canada. I ran another software company that was based out in Australia, and ran them PR and marketing operations for North America. And now I'm a futurist. And really anything can happen. And really what you need to do is think, okay, what do I want to do today? And go and do it. Then what do I want to do next year? Then plan for it. And then what do I want to be 3 to 5 years out? Well, whilst you're in that year and whilst you're working wherever, start thinking about those things, and over time it's going to reveal itself to you. So thank you very much for listening. I look forward to any questions. I look forward to Victoria speaking following.